That's all. I just think they wanted to get us back into top four. And once they felt like we had secured that, because this would be hopefully our third year qualifying for it, they were like, okay, now we can just use the money that we get from selling to buy players,
Plus, we got
so
Champions League now.
yeah. And then the Martinelli thing, I don't, and what you said is really important. I don't really believe the Martinelli thing because Arteta really likes him. And that's the problem, is that if they feel like they need to sell in order to bring in three players, and we already know that there's already money being pushed towards a goalkeeper and a DM, then if they don't sell Martinelli and they can't
And then
sell,
where do we get the depth? What's
then
going on?
where's the money going to come from to get? They're already basically telling you probably Sesko, and that's about it.
But even
Potentially.
that, just like obviously we're hearing Zuba again. To be fair, the club haven't officially come out themselves and said this, but at the same time, yeah, we are being briefed about. We're talking to Zubamendi, all this jazz. Sesko rumors are not going away. Like, do you really feel, one, that the club have to deliver this summer, and two, are you confident that they'll deliver?
Um, they have to deliver, but it's like a have to and then what? We're not gonna mobilize as a club and as a fan base to try to really get KSC out. Like, it's like, do you see what I'm saying? So it's like, yeah, they have
Oh,
to,
I
but like,
definitely.
of course they have to. Will they? I just the way that the verbiage that is coming out now really worries me. Needing to sell a crown jewel. We're not a good seller. Arteta's not going to sell Martinelli. We can't sell Jesus because he has the ACL. So there's not going to be money. They're basically, to me, they're briefing us that the window is going to be shit. They'll think it's great because they'll get
All the
their,
ITKs are saying it'd be amazing, like what Morgs has said here, but seeing's
yeah.
believing now.
Well, in their mind, a window where you get another DM and a goalkeeper is a great window for them. That's a great window. They don't give a fuck. They do not want to spend the kind of money that it's going to take to get the type of attackers that are really going to change everything. They're thinking Martinelli will be fine. Trossard is fine. Saka will come back and be fine. What's the problem? If they get one attacker, that'll probably be it. I genuinely think we're in for a rude awakening.
Especially with Ethan's emergence now as well, they might pivot. And do you know what? I'm not actually vexed if you don't sign someone who's primarily a right winger, because we're not going to sign Rafinha or Kudus or whatever. But I can't expect you lot to sign that. I can't expect them to sign for us, knowing they're going to be back up to Saka, right? But clearly a striker and a winger. Had we have done that in the summer, those two players could have been injured. But by general, we would have had more players available. And we can all see the Cronkies don't want to win. If they win, it's because of Mikel Arteta doing something great. What do you make of this? It's not over. Kiss my teeth. It's not over until it's mathematically impossible. Fans out here giving up on their team. Yeah, fans. What do you make of that? Big up the members. Big up Jay. But what do you make of that?
Jalen, I remember you from last time. You're
He's my guy, but he's moving mad.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. It's mathematically possible, but it's just unlikely. And it, the mathematics don't really matter to me if the performances don't add up, if the vibes don't add up. I just don't feel like it's there. And so, of course, every game day, I'm hoping that we win and we get a little bit of luck. But in my mind, we're not good enough to win the Premier League this season. And so I'm just moving like that. So you move like you, I'm a move like me.
And I
That's
wish I could
what it is.
disagree with Jess, but she's spitting.
Yeah. Yeah. But the winger situation, because I saw somebody was like, don't forget, maybe it was you, Jalen. I'm not sure, because I think maybe it was your comment, but you were like, don't forget, Sesko solves a lot. I don't disagree. The problem is that if Sesko were to get injured, we're right back to the same group that we had. I think we need to like change that front group kind of significantly. I don't
Expand on that for people that don't know what you're talking about.
So when we talk about like the way that our defense has changed over the last couple of seasons, the level of depth that we have and quality in that back line is what I'd like to see up front. I don't think our forwards are so good that we could just drop a Sesko in there and it'll be enough. I think Sesko will solve quite a bit, but if he were to get injured, you still will have the same problems that we have this season. We need if we were a serious club, 3 attackers would be what we need.
Oh, you reckon? I think you're being harsh.
Yeah.
3. Paint
Yeah.
paint your ideal then, like, I guess your depth chart, like
Well,
how many wingers, left wing, striker, like what is
I
it for
would
you?
say Ethan Sobs helps a lot, like you said,
Most
but
def.
another attacking midfielder, so I would add that into the attackers, a winger that is totally different than what the fuck we got right now, and a striker, a number 9. You know, that those are the 3 things that I would go with. If I couldn't get all 3 and I could only get 2, I would go with the winger and the striker. But I just think that this attack needs an overhaul more than people think. We just won't get it.
Apart from Bukayo Saka, I think Jess is bang on the money. Like, obviously, in this crazy world, if you could find someone that's better than Saka, they want to sign for Arsenal. You know, everybody here, me, you, Jess, everybody would love Saka, but I love my football club. So naturally, I would want an improvement on that, right? But barring Saka, obviously, Ethan, there's improvements that could be made. And I think Jess has made a great point about the 10 position or the Odegaard role. And fair enough, he's a bit younger, but we did hear rumblings about us trying to sign, is it Napan or whatever, who plays in that kind of role.
Hmm.
It's clear in it. I want the ideal world, which for me is you've got Bukayo Saka, you've got Ethan who can float around and is a young kind of player. You can take your time with it. You've got Martinelli, Gabriel Jesus if he stays, Trossard and Kai Havertz. If their form is out of this world, you start games, you play games, you can't be dropped, but you're squad
Mhm.
players. We need a striker, we need a
Yeah.
left winger, we need Mikel Arteta from a coaching front to go back to basics and create chances from open play. But just as on the money, and even when you look at it, of course, throughout the 5 years under Mikel Arteta, there's been different priorities. But if we look at the last 3 years, or even excluding this year, the last 2, where cool, you've got the defense, quote unquote, you've got something in midfield. It's not perfect, but you got it. The stardust, the X factor that they told us against Bayern Munich. You need a striker. This club has known for a minute it's needed a forward. If you're trying to buy Sesko last summer, you don't just wake up and say, "Oh, bloody hell, Jess, who should we sign?" You got any
Exactly.
suggestions? Like, you're scouting. So Jess is back on the money for me, anyways.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like, because we've let this go stale for so long, then you compound other problems with it. And so, well, because obviously there'll always be somebody screaming like, yeah, but we need a backup goalkeeper. I'm like, I know that. I know we need a backup goalkeeper, but priorities should be that we attribute as much money and push it forward for the positions that have not been addressed. And then if we have to get kind of like, just like a body for the backup goalkeeper, do that. But
What's
for
wrong
the
with getting a
goalkeeper,
body in general, which January highlights? Like, I hear it and I'm not
yeah.
for it, but what's wrong with a body? A body doesn't mean it's a bad footballer. I'll be real. We need to
Well,
pivot.
I think people use examples from the past where we haven't gotten good loan signings or bodies in, and then think that that's all you can get when there's various examples of other clubs doing much better than us. Just because we do shit in the January window when we need to get a body or a loan doesn't mean that's all that's available. But that's what they've conditioned you to think because they're not good at maneuvering under
Jess is
pressure.
being nice. You lot accept bullshit, but anyways, go on.
Yeah,
She's being nice, too nice.
I'm like, really? It's like, yeah, but it's just it's still so hard to maneuver in the January transfer window. I'm like, that's what Arsenal's telling y'all, but I'm seeing players move. Yeah, but just can't get that player because they're a youth player and they're gonna need to develop.
It's an easier
And
life but just if you believe all of this, and I'm not saying we're right all the time because a lot of this stuff we've been wrong, but Jess, if you believe all of this stuff, it must be an easier way of supporting your team. Like, Arsenal's a very difficult team to think about, like, to follow. If you're an independent thinker, if you agree with certain things and disagree with others. And I think this question's kind of bang on the money. My question is, if we have the money, are we hamstrung by needing more money to get true game changes like Arteta wants? Or do you think these lows like Sterling or Trossard a year ago are the bandage? Well, clearly they're contingency plans. Naturally, you're right with what you're saying. But at the end of the day, unless you're going to do a madness and you scouted someone, game changers cost a lot of money. If you want Kudus, Cunha, to a degree, Sesko, Zubamendi, all of these guys that I'm saying and we've been linked with, at the
yeah,
minimum is 50 million and upwards. So it's like, are we going to get these guys, these household names? Are we going to find them before they come household names? Are we going to find alternatives? Or are we going to do the same things we're doing at the moment?
our transfer policy is very sus because it's like we have very expensive tastes, and we like very players that are already finished and they're developed and they're Premier League proven. You already know Premier League proven players, when you're selling from Premier League club to Premier League club, they're already adding like an additional 20 million to that. They're very expensive. So, and we don't want to develop the players ourselves because Arteta can't coach, manage, and develop at the same time. He really struggles with that. So he needs to get the ready-made players, but then we don't have the money. And I don't even know if it's so much we don't have the money, but you have the lawyers up there talking about what their true value is. And they
We
talk about,
don't, because we want to pay more over a longer time for these release clauses, which I'm not against, but we're clearly
yeah,
working in some sort of budget or remit.
yeah, they do this whole like they didn't think Isak at the time was worth the 70 million euros. That's what the Tim Lewises and those guys were telling him. And I'm just like, you guys are not football people. That's why you need football people in those seats, because they can look at a player and look at them and say like their potential is this. This player will be £100 million player in 2 years if we play them and they develop in the way. They can't see it because the player's not in the Premier League, because the player is not right in front of their face, so they don't want to develop the players when they're not expensive, but then they want to go to a West Ham and offer less than what West Ham wants for a Kudus. Because they will say, well, Kudus was worth 40 million 2 years ago. Now West Ham won 80 million. He's not worth that. He's worth that to them. Don't show up to their doorstep and say what they're worth to them. You need to come with the money. If you don't want to come with the money, then don't come. But that's the problem with our thing, is we don't want to develop them ourselves, but then we want to tell people that those players are not worth those amounts when we come to their doorstep. And I think that's where we're
There's a
very
disconnect.
yeah, we're very suspect. I'd rather, because I'm an Arsenal fan from a long time, I'm okay with us buying the players before they become the
They're
stars.
lesser known entities. Yeah, we
Yeah,
just want
yeah,
competencies. Like if you can find a man for 5 million or 500 million, great. I just want strikers that can score and do all the modern day
exactly.
stuff, etc. Like it's
I'm okay
jarring.
with that.
And like, is it just me, Jess? And again, I'm not with it, yeah. But you look at Nico Williams, you look at Sesko, you look at Zubamendi. Half of these guys, you look at Garcia. All these men got release clauses. So it's not like I'm not saying you can't scout, and we didn't scout. We've obviously done our homework, but it's like you're going after players that are quote unquote attainable. And then for me, I don't expect you to get everything right in terms of incomings and outgoings, but I hope you get all these signings, because I don't want to hear from Arsenal fans, if you don't get Sesko and you don't get someone else, who could we get? Because we're doing the same things. It's word to damn pots, it's swings and roundabouts, man. Like it's nonsense, really. And when it sounds good in theory, but when you actually sit there and break it down, it's not making sense. And I know it's easy for us as fans. We're armchair experts. I have no doubt they tried, but it's a results-driven business. For me personally, stop telling me what Arsenal have done well. Stop telling me what we do good. Not because I don't want to hear it. Cool, you've got that nailed down. It's the fine margins, the small margins, the no errors, the no margin for errors that we're hearing on the football pitch. You can't get at me when I'm hearing Arteta saying we need to maximize markets. Did we do that in the summer or Jan? Clearly not. You hear him say things like we've got the smallest squad at the beginning and end of last year, and much less in the build up to the game against City, which he said we've got a squad of 19. We're trying to compete in 4 trophies. We've got 3 or 4 long-term injuries, and unfortunately, a lot of our players, they've been old injuries. Ben White's been played ridiculous. Kai Havertz ridiculous. But Bukayo Saka most definitely. And like what Jess alluded to at the start, but I'm going to expand on it. Every question we had going into this season, we've seen it play out. What happens if Odegaard's form or if he's not there? What happens with Ben White? What happens with Saka? What happens with Kai? What happens with this one? And even with the Kais and the Declan Rices and the Sakas and the Ben Whites, they are more durable players. We ran them into the ground because we don't have a big squad. And you look at the last couple of years, they've played hell of amounts for club and country. There has to be a correlation with Declan Rice playing at the Euros on top of every week for Arsenal and starting the season a bit slower. And now he's getting up to things. And we hope by God's grace, a man don't get injured. We're doing the same things, expecting different things to happen.
Yeah.
Where I'm from, that's insanity. I don't know, Jess. You're from America, so maybe they call it something different. I don't know. Maybe I'm making this all up.
Definitely insanity. And I just want us to figure out who we are and double down on it. Are we going to be the type of, do we think that we're at a position now where we can go to other Premier League clubs and pick off their best players and overspend? on that? Or are we the type of team that's going to go to lesser known players and develop them ourselves? And, are we going to do that?
Facts.
I don't think we've decided who we are. I think we're doing the in between.
What do you
And
think's the best
so,
route then? Before you finish what you're going to say, what do you think the best
I
route is?
for Arsenal, I still think and I know people are not going to want to hear this, but I still think our best way is making the stars. I think we need to utilize our academy. I think we need to go out there and find the best possible talent. I'd love for us to have better scouts and a really good DOF so we can identify the duets and those types of players, maybe spend a little bit extra to get them out of the places that they're at and develop our own stars. That
Fact.
feels like the Arsenal thing for me. And I think you can win major honors with that strategy, but you just have to be really good at it. Because also what happens is if you buy really talented players, even if they don't work out for you, they can work out for someone else. And then you
And
can
you make
sell.
money.
Yeah, and then you can sell. And that works for a club that does not have a state-backed owner.
I can't lie, we need a state back. I'm with Jess. Let's get it. I know Kroenke's not leaving, but you can't beat him. Join them. Run me the oil money. Like it doesn't have to be Saudi oil, Russian oil. Just run it to me, because that's one thing I would say. Yeah, as crazy as Arteta is, if we had an owner like that, Arteta would get a lot wrong, but we get a lot right, man. Like I'm with you in that. I want us to scout players. There's something romantic around how obviously Odegaard's a known entity, but we've got Odegaard doing his thing, Saka's doing his thing, but when I'm hearing us link with Isaac and this one and that one, I don't like it, because I know we're not going to put the money down. Or if we're going to put the money down, it's okay, Jess, I'll buy your player, but I'm going to pay you over a 20-year period. Of course, you're not going to go for that with the TV rights in the Premier League and all of this nonsense.
Oh yeah, for
It pisses
sure.
me off. It
And they
pisses me
don't
off, Jess.
and no club likes us. I don't know who needs to hear this, but we are not well liked. So those favorable terms that you think we're going to get from Brighton, they hit our
Don't
guts.
want
They're
to
going to
tread on anyone's
a lot
toes.
up front. Yeah, they like dealing with Chelsea. You know why they like dealing with Chelsea? Because Chelsea pays a lot up front. We go to the table, and I want to say we're probably borderline disrespectful. We come up there with our valuation of the player, go in there like Billy Big Balls and shit with no money, talk about we want to spread it over 20 years. We are not about that life, So I
And
think we
when we
need to
do,
go
we
back.
fumble.
Yeah, the biggest thing that we could do is not hire Jason Ito and go get a top director of football, get some fucking scouts, go get Francis Cachagal and apologize to him, bring him back, and start finding top talent that are within our budget. Tell Arteta he's going to have to do some developing. It's fine. And for people that are like, we're in win now. I'm sorry, you
We're
guys, but
clearly not. Or you don't have the 2 summers we did. We're clearly not in win now. We're
yeah,
clearly not.
we've
It's a
gone
lie.
back. We've gone backwards, but you guys are telling me that you think like I get it that Sesko is not sexy. I get it, but you guys think that he couldn't score one goal, against Aston Villa. Last year he couldn't score one goal against West Ham. We're talking about just needing players that when it comes down to it can score the goals when it matters. That's all. That's what we need. And that's not necessarily always a world-class player. It's not. We watch
Exactly.
players all day, every day for other teams scoring goals in big moments.
2 in our squad are not world-class players, and they made the difference on occasion across a 38-game calendar for Man City. Jesus ain't world-class, Zinni ain't
No.
world-class, but once you get to crunch time, these men get opportunities, which for me, and again, I'm not a fly on the wall, I think Arteta has to hold a lot of his L's. He's made a lot of mistakes, and I do think the Cronkies are messing them around. But specific to Arteta, bro, you've been at City. You know why you need a squad. You know why you need difference makers. You know why you need either a cold-hearted killer up front or numbers dons. Like a lot of this don't make sense. And if Jess and me and you lot that are not scouts and coaches and all of these things, if we can say this, why can't they? And I'm not naive enough to think they're not having these conversations, but I have to say why. This is why I'm past the point of Arteta, Cronkies, this, that, and the other. At the end of the day, Arteta's on big money. You're on big money. You took the job because you knew what time it was. You no one put a gun to your head. You've done well. We're second. There's bare positive statistics. Us two could wheel off. With great power comes great responsibility. I'm not on it. Like, let's be honest. What people forget, the whole reason we talk about Kai Havertz up front is because we failed upwards with him. It was a short-term injury. It was an injury to Jesus. It was a short-term solution that became a long-term option, which
Yeah.
shagged us. A lot of people saying, "Oh, at the back of last season, if he continues, yeah, that's romantic." But you see, like life, football gets ugly. There's romantic moments. If we somehow win the Prem, nothing be more romantic than this. But when it gets cold-hearted, ugly, winning or losing, backs against the corner, the two legs against Newcastle tell you my answer.
Absolutely.
Man United tells you my answer. Last season tells you it. This year tells you it.
And we do this thing where something works for us like like short term, and instead of going, whew, we got away with it, now let's straighten shit up, we double down on it. And then we
The
wonder why.
injuries.
Yeah, we love a short term option that we try to make long term. We do it a lot. Even with like Jorginho and Trossard, they were meant to help us get over the line. They weren't even supposed to be the number one